Welcome back to the Don't Tell Me About Yourself podcast. We are at the Shaker booth at Unleash America, and today we are sitting with...
Tom McCarty, and I'm the CEO of OrgChart.
Yeah, can you tell us about OrgChart?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been in the kind of the HR tech space for since about 2013. We do kind of three main things for HR professionals. So we automate visibility into your organization. I think, if you've been in HR long enough, you probably, or ever managed people, you've manually drawn your org charts. We take the pain of that completely away. So we automate, integrate with like 50 different HRIS systems and automate that. We bring in deeper insights so you can have different lenses of the organization. So maybe you have a budget chart, a span of control chart, tenure, different ways to look at your org. And then workforce planning. Like, what's the future of your organization look like? How are you adopting for change? How are you planning for AI? Where does your org need to look like and shaped for in the future?
You're biting off a big piece there. Like, that's important.
It is. It is. Yeah. I think it's, it's every org needs to be doing it. And honestly, when you think about what we're doing to kind of get ready for AI, it's really not any different than what we've been doing anytime you're thinking about making changes to your organization and people. And it really starts out with what we do first. It's like, what is the base? What's the current state of your organization? And you have like a holistic view. Do you know where you're at?
Yeah.
You can't get where you're going if you don't know where you are, right?
What are some things that most companies are blind to that you help them to see?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, it's going to sound terrible. It's like a lot of things, right? And the reason is what I typically find is in most organizations, regardless of size, you're usually gathering data from multiple data sources and you're consolidating that into a spreadsheet to get this static snapshot of your organization. So, and look, planning exercises are not like 1 week exercises, right? They're like over 3 or 4 months. So like, if you're doing an annual exercise, maybe you take the static snapshot of your org on September 1st. Well, the problem, if you have 1,000 employees, if you have 150 employees, that data is wrong by tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
And so what we're doing first is really helping you put all that data together in an automated way. Yeah. And so that as you're doing your planning scenarios, that data is reflecting the real-time situation of the organization.
Cool.
And then, like, let's say we're all 3 people managers. Well, if we have a budget for what we need to do in our organization, if you're looking at these 5 things and I'm looking at 5 other things and you're looking at 5 other things, then you start to get inconsistencies and inequality in how you treat people and how decisions are made. So we allow organizations to better standardize those things of like, what should I think about? What are the important things for me as a people leader or an HR partner to consider when making changes in an organization?
It's really cool.
You bring up data, which is one of my favorite topics. I'm like a data nerd.
Yeah.
So I did want to ask you, and it could be just, your company or your customers. I'm curious, is there a specific metric or data point that you or your customers are focused on this year?
I think that like what a lot of customers are thinking about now is like, what are the skills? You think about like job skills and job positions more. Yes. And it's really, I think 2 things. It's like, well, what are the things that are most likely to or could be displaced through agentic, right? And, what I encourage my team to think about is like, hey, to better embrace it is like, let's look at the things that are the mundane tasks, the things that we don't like doing. And like, these are things that are like for AI to help us do so that we can actually spend our own time and energy and brain power on the things that have greater impact to culture, to organization, to goals and targets. And so like, I'm seeing that more and more is like, I'm less thinking about, individual performance metrics or things like that. I'm looking at like the jobs that are being done in an organization, the positions and the skills, and then like, how am I building the skills in my team for what the future of work is going to look like in a world of AI.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And thinking of what can be automated is so important, and also what can't, right? Because there are so many things that also need human touch.
Yes.
Still.
And I think where I see a lot of people make mistakes, and like, look, this is the same mistake we make. Like, nobody wants to go through a RIF, right? But we've all managed through a RIF at some point in our lives. And you're choosing kind of where those hits might happen, but sometimes we don't actually have the full picture of what somebody does. And it's like, wow, I was okay with 80%, but that last 20% they did is really hurting us, and now they're gone, right? And maybe 80% of this role could be agentified, but that last 20% really needs the human touch. And that's where it's important to really look at your current state look at the skills and the jobs before you start making those moves, before you make kind of unintended impacts into the organization.
Sure, yeah. Is there something from your perspective that's encouraging to you or exciting to you that's happening in your industry?
Yeah, I think one of the things I'm passionate about in terms of what we do, and I'm seeing this more and more, is like, look, I don't think many HR professionals got into HR to live in spreadsheets and to be administrators of things. I think when you look at the things that we're trying to do, which is automate all of this manual process of seeing your organization, of doing your planning, when you look at some of the things that AI is doing, which I think is going to take some of these administrative tasks out of HR, I think it's actually going to allow HR professionals to get back to the core of why they got into HR. I think it's going to allow us to be focused on the decisions and the conversations and of how we still make the most use out of our most expensive asset in any company, which is our people, and how to help people thrive in their roles. And I think HR is, just because of all of the data, the manual tasks, the administrative work, we've gotten away from being able to lead the conversation instead of just documenting and facilitating the conversation.
And that's so important. Victoria and I talk to hiring managers often about how important it is to hire somebody that has the right motivations that align. And I can tell you that as an HR person, they are not motivated by data entry and Excel sheets.
Is anybody?
No. Well, there are some.
There are a few.
And thank goodness for them, because
Amen.
most of us are not.
I
Know what I
agree.
mean?
I agree.
So it's really nice of you. I mean, it's going to talk about employee satisfaction. They're going to be able to do the things that they got into the industry to do in the first place, and just to be people, help out with the really important decisions for the company. So. So there's probably many HR people that are yelling at this episode right now. I'm like, thank you, that's amazing. What is one thing that talent leaders need to know in the year ahead?
I think we're touching on it, right? I mean, look, we can't ignore that AI is going to transform work.
Sure.
Like it's not. I feel like the tipping point has gone way over the scale now at this point, and it's like, and I do think that in HR we can sometimes be slower to adopt on the technology front, right? And so I think we have to learn and embrace that and figure out how that looks and how we can help navigate the conversations for our organization. So it's not just how's it going to look in HR, but then really helping to navigate this change management conversation that needs to be happening, because if ever we need HR being an active voice in these planning scenarios, it's now. And really thinking about what's the future going to be for our team members, how are we doing this, and really focusing on the people element of where we can and where we can't.
Cool.
And so I think that's got to be the focus.
Yeah, sounds like a pivotal point for HR people right now.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. And in most spaces, right? Like it's not just here, but for sure in HR. Yeah.
Yep. Where can people find more information about you and the company?
Yeah, so you can follow me on LinkedIn, Tom McCarty, org chart, and our website's theorgchart.com. And we'd be happy to help anybody out and hopefully take some of that manual, painful Excel work off their
So kind of you.
So
yes, so kind of you. Well, thank you so much for your time today. We hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.
Yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate it.